Welcome to Front Row Geeks.
Out that the patch actually made their own fix inoperable anymore.
So I've started recording because I want this to be on the pod because I think it's makes sense. And now I just forgot what I was going to say. Shit. Oh yes.
It's okay.
So no. Okay. I got the new Moga MP5X controller, Xbox Bluetooth controller. It's basically the controller that they develop semi-specifically for mobile gaming with Project xCloud, the streaming Xbox service.
So it's basically the Xbox Series X, but plus mobile.
Yes. Well, what? No.
Are you sure about that, Eddie?
Just a sec.
Okay, you said the MP...
I'm going to share my screen with you. Sorry, listeners, you're not going to get this.
Why are you
that
already
is
recording?
not what I'm finding.
Because I want to talk about this controller as part of our pod.
Okay.
Actually, I should just be able to start video. That's what I wanted. I should do, because that way I can just show you guys on video exactly what I'm talking about before I go any further.
Or I just pull up the literal website for it.
I mean, you can do that.
Well, he might show things about it. Loading. Error.
Why? Why can't I stream video to you or my face to you? It's probably because OBS is using it, so it's probably not letting it happen. Okay, David, just look it up. You're right. We're not gonna get anywhere with it. Okay. I bought that controller, and that controller has a clip that you can put on your phone to play xCloud games. Basically, long story short, but it's also a Bluetooth controller you can use with your computer. So I bought it for both of those, mostly for the computer part, but I'll be able to make use of it on mobile on xCloud, if I want to.
Oh, hey, they actually put in a lithium-ion battery for once.
Yeah, it's there's a lot nice about it. At least even that power bank. The problem is that how every time I've plugged in my controllers directly through USB, either the PS one or the Xbox One.
Yeah.
They all have standard drivers that immediately read correctly when it's connected via Bluetooth. I mean, not Bluetooth, USB. So the computer automatically knows my controller is an Xbox controller when I plug it in through USB. The PlayStation controller that we use for streaming all the time, if I plug it in through USB, it automatically knows that it's a PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
Over Bluetooth, none of that shit happens. I actually spent 3 hours today programming my computer and there's various settings where I needed it to be that way. Actually, I don't even have Game Pass fixed yet. Maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I don't have Game Pass. But Steam and other stuff, I had to program it specifically to work on these controllers. Because otherwise, over Bluetooth, they were not recognized as what they are. It didn't realize that over Bluetooth, this thing was a Xbox controller. So it didn't work out of the box. I had to program it. It's just so fucking frustrating.
No, I agree, Eddie. But, yeah, I'm literally looking at Xbox's own website, and they're already selling the Series X controller. Oh, it's kind of cheap, depending on which version you get. But
yeah, if you ever go down to Xbox Game Pass, if you ever take that plunge, I definitely recommend getting a controller like this. Because I think otherwise, other than the problem I'm having connecting it to a PC, it's a great controller. It's working for everything else it was meant to. It is such a headache. Like I don't understand how anyone who doesn't know computers expected to use this on a computer, because it just wasn't easy. It just, like, I was at the point where I was like, am I going to return this? Is this worth it?
Is there a switch on it?
Yeah, there's a switch. There's a switch to make
I was
it go
having
USB
problems
Bluetooth.
with my fight stick because it was switched in a different method. If you switch it to a different one, it recognizes it instantly. So maybe it's that sort of problem.
Well, and I don't even know it's a developer problem, because like I said, I was having to do the same thing on my PlayStation controller. Because every stream we've done on here, on this setup, I've been using a USB-connected PlayStation controller. And I think I just knew I knew subconsciously that's what I needed to do. Because the controller does not work as a PlayStation controller over Bluetooth. That includes, and actually, I would have gone all the way and programmed it to be wireless so I can use it wirelessly. The problem was that damn touchpad that these PS4 controllers have, the DualSense shit. Can't fucking do that over Bluetooth on a computer. It just does. I mean, there might be a fix, but that was just one bridge too far. I was like, fuck this. I just might as well plug it in. It stopped being worth it. At least the Xbox controller still had some worthwhile. It was still kind of worth it to do it, but the specifics of the PlayStation was just like, forget it. Not going to do it. It doesn't matter. Just plug it in. I only use the PlayStation controller for this, so I only need to plug it in. When we do this, every other time I'll use my Bluetooth controller, now working Bluetooth Xbox controller for everything else. So it's fine. But it's like, whew, damn it, like it's again not their. I don't think it's a developer's fault. Obviously, it's some sort of limitation of Bluetooth that I don't understand as a non-developer Bluetooth product. Obviously, there's some limitation that it doesn't allow this to be so cleanly done. But whatever, right? I don't know. Other than that, great controller, definitely recommend. And that's how we start today's show.
Eddie ranting about a controller.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? This is Front Row Geeks. I am Eddie, Baron5X. And joining me today, we have the one and only Asher, formerly Omega, or still Omega? David?
Still Omega, yeah.
You're Omega in my heart. And then the singular, the unique MPX. Hi, MPX.
Again.
So, man, what are we going to dive into today, y'all? Give me something. Give me something to chew on.
I found something that you could have used instead, Eddie.
What?
Just sending you the link now, but it is Bluetooth capable. It is mobile capable. There are clips for it, and you can also technically use it on other consoles as well.
I have that one too.
Okay.
Actually, funny story. I think I had always intended to get that one, the one you just posted, and I'm pretty sure.
Just for everybody's sake, I posted an 8BitDo SN30 Pro because it's on Xbox's website, and there's a version of it that's literally Xbox Black with the giant huge Xbox button. So
here's the funny thing. I did buy that one too. The thing is that when I bought that one, I think I bought it months ago, and I forgot I bought it because it was on pre-order when I bought it. So because I think I've always knew that either A, I was going to get Game Pass at some point, or B, that was just a good controller to have for other stuff. So I obviously past Eddie bought it in June, maybe it was May, one of those two, and then forgot all about it. And then once the Game Pass started to hype up, is back in like early September. No, sorry, early August. I was like, ooh, this is a good idea. I should get this Mogo one. This looks good. so I ordered the Mogo one, and then 2 weeks, because I got this on Thursday. 2 weeks before, I got this random box that I didn't recognize. Open it up. Oh shit! There's another one of these. I forgot I bought this one. So yay. Truth be told, this 8BitDo one is probably the one I'm actually going to take, on the road with me, because it is a lot slimmer, a lot easier to work with. I don't need to bring. Obviously, relatively speaking, it's not that much bigger, but this one can stay home. The one that I was talking about now, it can stay home. If I really think, I always have the option, but this one will likely be the dedicated stay-at-home control. But also, it works super well. I've tried both of them with the xCloud. Works like a charm. xCloud is pretty good. I had some issues with it, but I'm still kind of fiddling with what variables are me, what variables are them. But overall, it is a very good experience, especially when you consider that it's really just a bonus on top of the Game Pass. The Game Pass itself, without the streaming service, is already excellent. So the fact that this is on top of that, it's just like great gravy. It's gravy, awesome. So even if when it doesn't work 100%, it's easy to forgive. It's very easy to forgive.
But okay, yeah, yeah, controller issues are kind of always a problem.
Yeah, such is life.
Well, I guess.
So what else has been going on?
Me, MPX, and a mutual friend of ours attempted a very, very interesting monster today.
Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter, and for people that do play Monster Hunter, as you should, Eddie.
Sorry.
I'm not going to let you live that down.
It's okay. I probably deserve it in some way, so I'll allow it.
We attempted to try and do the Safajiva siege.
With just 3 players.
With just 3 people. We got decently far enough into it, but, how long were we on that? How long were we doing it? Because, as a heads up, the Sapphire you receive, you're limited to 20 minutes each time you do it, and
You have to go through essentially 3 major phases before you can essentially kill it.
yeah, you get better rewards the more you hit certain requirements like breaking parts, getting it to sap an area of its energy, like getting it to steal the energy from an area or completely drain an area of its energy.
Is this part of a new update? Because I saw you post something.
No, this is a bit of an older update, honestly. Safi was like back in spring, right?
Safi was actually like a month or two after release of Iceborne, really.
Oh, so it's almost a year old.
Yeah.
So because I saw you post something in our mutual discords about Monster Hunter, but that was unrelated to this action.
Oh, that's actually
The final update and the final monster for Monster Hunter World,
which
is Fatalis.
Yeah, which is a returning monster from
1.
Yeah, is it one? Yeah, it is one. As a heads up, we've never really played one because while it is a PS2 game, the first Monster Hunter that me and MPX played was Freedom Unite.
Ghost of Tsushima is a vast...
Which seems to be most of everybody's entrance into Monster Hunter.
Well, it was a lot
days.
more accessible because a lot of the Monster Hunters were available on the PSP for that, and unfortunately, until Monster Hunter World, the last major release on console was on the Wii and the Wii U, so a bit awkward.
Yeah. Technically, there is a release for Generations Ultimate on the Switch, but it's weird to describe that because that's just technically an update to Monster Hunter Generations, which was a 3DS title. Barring the up-and-coming Monster Hunter Rise, which that's going to be interesting because, well, that's another Switch exclusive.
Will Eddie give that one a try? Stay tuned.
Well, you might.
Hey,
You might
coming
not.
in on the ground floor is probably a lot better than trying to join us at the moment.
Yeah,
I agree.
because if with Rise, we're all probably going to be learning some of the new mechanics, especially the whole wire bug thing, because, oh god, that's new. But at the same time, it's like the whole Fatalis thing is that this is going to be the final major update to World. They'll still be doing like maintenance updates or bug fixing, but now the team is going to be essentially winding down. There are not going to be any new quests added. The seasonal events are now pretty much automated, so they'll happen during set times. Essentially, they'll open up quests that that normally cycle through. And then people will be moving over to Monster Hunter Rise to get that up and running, because that's, or at least helping with the finishing touches on Rise, because that's next year in March.
Do you think they're going to be like on time with that kind of stuff? I feel like a lot of these different, especially something set for March, is being generous to themselves. I feel like there's going to be more than a couple of delays.
Well, here's the funny thing is that Capcom has stated that like when they had released Iceborne, that's when they started development for Rise.
So you don't think this is going to be delayed in any significant way?
Given the way Capcom has the Monster Hunter team structured, there might be a delay, but I don't think it's going to be very much. Because...
When did they give this announcement, this release announcement again?
Last month, I believe.
Okay, it might be soon enough. Maybe at that point they know themselves well enough in this new era and won't mess that up.
Well, that's because the factor that the teams for Monster Hunter, there's always been 2 teams, and they always trade people off when one team is winding down. The other team moves in to start doing the finishing touches for the other one, or at least help with the development of the next game in it.
Okay, I see.
Because the way the Monster Hunter team has been since roughly the inception of Monster Hunter is that there is the main title games and then the mobile games. I use the term mobile not because of like cellular mobile, but because of the old handheld style gaming like the PSP or the 3DS.
Okay, that's fair.
And the reason why they made the 2 teams is that basically one team would do a main store, like main title game, and then the mobile team would take that and actually update all the stuff that they did with it, either adding new mechanics and then adding in new monsters. Now, technically, they really couldn't do Monster Hunter World for the Switch for probably a few reasons, but I think Rise is going to take a decent approach at adapting the mechanics and upgrading them for that mobile play as well as a console style gameplay. So, plus the armor looks so far pretty good because they've released literally the female starting armor, at least the concept sketch of it.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, I saw you posted that too. Yeah, that looks pretty badass.
Generally, the female armor is definitely a little bit more provocative than the male armor for obvious reasons, because they've fully admitted that yes, female armor is that way because it's supposed to look nice.
Eye candy, got it.
Yeah, especially since that's how Monster Hunter usually plays, is that armor will do what it needs to do, but the looks of it will always be essentially the male armor is big bulky armor that makes them look like tanks, where unless you're talking about Karen armor, where then it's like assless chaps for everybody.
Jesus.
I'm not joking. So yeah, we attempted Safi Jiva, and how long was it? Almost, we were like 3 hours, and we had just kind of gotten
to the final level almost.
We got into
It's
the final level,
final countdown.
but we were like, we need to eat because it's almost 5, and we started at like,
Jesus. Yeah, that's a long fight.
well, as a heads up, the siege monsters, because there's only technically 2 of them, are supposed to be done by roughly a group of 16 people. Not all at once, but just like
16?
Okay.
Wow.
I'm not sure if you ever paid too much attention to the online hub, Eddie, but the rooms that are set up in Monster Hunter can hold up to 16 hunters. People do actually form hunt groups in Monster Hunter because, well, it's a cooperative multiplayer game. And so the whole thing of doing Safi Jiva is that, like, you have one set of people going in, and then another set of people going in, and then a third set of people going in, kind of thing. So it's like people can get in there, and then like you all get rewards based off of your group. And yes, there are people that it's the 4 of them, and they will do it, and they will take care of it. With 3 people, it's harder. I wouldn't say like super hard, but I would definitely put it as
I mean, 3 versus 16 is a big difference. So I can see now why there was a lot of meticulous and very. I mean, your actions probably were meticulous, and it was taking a long time because instead of having 16 points of damage, you have 3 points of damage.
Well, it's not 3 points of damage. It's more about the factor that we're not having like 4 groups of people going in at once, and very
increasing
organized.
the bars for it.
Yeah. So it was much slower going, and I would also say that we're not necessarily optimized for dealing with Safi Jiva the best that we can.
On top of everything else.
On top of everything else, because the one thing about like as you experience yourself, monster like you can break stuff or chop stuff off monsters. With sieges. The system that they set up in World is the factor that like you gain certain points to get better rewards if you meet the criteria, and probably the biggest criteria is breaking shit on Safi Jiva. We were only able to break 1 part on him, and
in the 3 hours you were playing.
Yeah.
Whew.
And I looked it up. Apparently, the back breaks immediately if you mount him. So yeah, that's the only reason why we got that 1 break, is because of the factor that we had somebody mount Safi Jiva and break his back. So the other sections, like, we have to essentially do some focus work on certain parts of the boss. Otherwise, yeah, we're not going to break anything.
Well, that all sounds harrowing. If only you could somehow like do one of those hacks where you guys can play the same, like, 1 account or 3 different accounts but playing one person playing them. I feel like I've seen that before. Not for Monster Hunter necessarily, but hacks like that.
I think you were talking about multi-boxing.
Yeah.
That's like multiple accounts essentially run on virtual machines or something like that. if it's
Yeah.
one machine. But the reason why it's called multi-boxing is you literally had multiple computers. It was just all tied to, a singular keyboard, or if the person was cheap, just had multiple keyboards running macros and things like that.
Yeah, you all should look into that.
I don't think that would work for Monster Hunter because there's too much action reaction going on.
Yeah, Monster Hunter does not lend itself well to multi-boxing.
Fair.
It's not like a tab target MMO where you can just simply have the healers stand off to the side and just run a heal macro.
Okay, so moving on to something else, and this is also something that I've been trying all day to kind of get caught up with it, but I failed to do so. The Nintendo Direct for Smash that happened a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, that was sort of big because the amount of backlash it got was really high for strangely.
I've
It
only
broke
heard
Twitter,
bits and pieces.
Apparently.
Yeah, I heard that part.
Yeah.
So did you all watch it?
I did not watch it live. I watched the.
I watched somebody watch the
Reveal.
reveal, but I didn't watch the direct that actually talked about the actual mechanics.
Okay,
I only watched
so-
the character reveal, and that was about it.
I only saw the character reveal too. But the basically the first thing I'll start off with, I guess, to pull up this is that there's a lot of people talking about how Sakurai looked really upset, like unhappy to be there.
I heard that Sakurai actually, honestly, looked very unwell. Not like pissed off, but sickly kind of thing.
Yeah, there's been a mix of that. Like, yes, upset, mad, unwell. Take your pick.
Yeah, from the sound of his voice, it didn't sound all that different, honestly.
You think we're all just making a big deal, or
Not necessarily, but he could also have been acting a bit,
Yeah.
considering he was talking about how, difficult it was to try to implement a character like Steve into the game when his game really doesn't convey well to Smash Brothers.
When Steve's game does not convey well to.
Well, yeah, Steve from
Yeah.
Minecraft.
And yet here he is.
By the way, the new character is Steve. Listeners from
Steve
Minecraft.
/Alex/Zombie/Enderman.
Yeah.
The only reason why they can do that is because the character model is so simple.
Yeah, I feel like most of the mechanics and stuff were not taken for Steve's model, but actually for Steve's mechanic.
Well, it's Minecraft in total, so.
Yeah, I do like the factor that it's not like the Minecraft stories type of model. It's like the actual literal Minecraft model.
Yeah, this seemed like it makes sense to me as far as inclusion goes. Steve is a big deal. Minecraft is a big deal. So
Well, yeah,
Makes sense to
Smash
me.
is, as somebody pointed out, it's for all games to get in on eventually. Like, the big deal with this release of Smash Brothers was everybody's back.
Yeah.
So,
I still don't own this game. I just haven't made time for it.
Minecraft or Smash Brothers?
Smash.
The new one.
I thought you did have it, like digital copy.
It's no, I just never got it yet. I think Andy has it, but I just never haven't pulled the trigger on it. But I want to. There's so many characters that have been added since then that I really want to play. Banjo-Kazooie, fuck yeah, but it hasn't happened.
I will probably be doing Dark Samus the entire time, and people are like, "Why are you playing Samus?" God, I've actually seen people start arguments about Smash Brothers is not a fighting game.
It is.
I mean, that's literally what it is, isn't it?
I would say it's a fighting game for people who don't like fighting games.
I mean, you're talking semantics. Like, is that what we're going to argue here? Semantics?
First of all, most fighting games don't have a multiplayer that allows 3 or more players on the field.
So it's semantics then. We are talking semantics because it is obviously a fighting game in the most general definition. If fighting game in our vocabulary has to mean a certain thing, then maybe it isn't a fighting game. But ask a 2-year-old fighting game. Like it's
But a
Neanderthal
2-year-old
level.
could say that Double Dragon is a fighting game, or
Technically, it is.
there's fighting going on in Battlefield, so it's a fighting game.
Admittedly, like some of the arguments I've seen have cropped up really old games that are interesting in the factor that I've literally said
technically, you could say a lot of games don't necessarily fit into particular genres. It's just that over time, the genres have naturally eclipsed, the type of games. Like, let's face it, when Doom came out, the first-person genre was a very different thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that it technically included wizardry when you think about it.
Wizardry. Pretty much most Western RPGs at the time, which were just first person.
Well, I'm pretty sure is it the Ultima series? I think it was. Is technically top down, so it's third person.
Yeah,
Isometric?
isometric.
Yeah. Well, what would you call it, essentially? The only reason why there's a difference between isometric and third person is that third person is usually in a 3D world, while isometric is in a pixelated world.
Yeah, but no, like I was thinking of the old Elder Scrolls games where they were like first person, but
Yeah.
not necessarily. I think Elder Scrolls 1 was grid based, but 2 was not, or I could be misremembering. But at the same time, it's like I saw some people bring up like, well, then would you consider Power Stone not to be a fighting game? And that's where some of the controversy, like people's opinions started flaring up, is that Power Stone is a fighting game. Like,
Asher,
Mm.
obviously this needs to be an FRP. You need to write this down and get to the bottom of it.
There's also the aspect of items, because items change the fact that it's no longer, you have a kit and that kit is with your character and you have to play the character versus like in Smash Brothers with items, you can just simply grab, the hammer and win.
and I know that like some people, like I've seen some people mention that like no, Power Stone isn't a fighting game.
Well,
Yes,
it depends on which Power Stone we're talking about. In Power Stone 1, it was 2x2 in an arena, in a 3D arena, but there were items. You could throw things around. But in the second one, it completely redesigned itself with movable levels, lots of items, a lot of randomness with the Power Stone mechanic.
I would say dynamic stages.
Eh.
I think all in all, these are all fighting games. I mean, as far as giving it a simple name, if outside of that, yeah, there is a big difference between Power Stone and Street Fighter and Brawl, and they're just going to have to have their own, qualifiers in what they are. But they're all fighting games. I think that's just as simple as that.
Yeah. So my take on it is Smash Brothers. It's a fighting game. It's not necessarily an in-depth quotations strategic fighting game like you would get from Blaze Blue or Street Fighter.
Well, I would say that it is a more accessible fighting game compared to those.
I can see that.
Because unlike those, the characters have incredibly simple inputs. The setup doesn't necessarily require health, therefore characters can survive quite a bit longer than, say, in your traditional fighting game. Not to mention the malleability of, stock and things like that.
So because you brought this up, David, did people have a problem with Steve being included? I mean, at this point, why would anybody have a problem with anything?
I've heard people complain about it, like in this bitter sort of, why not something else or cooler got involved? Why Minecraft?
I've seen most of the people that are like complaining about Steve are the people that are going to like essentially the like, why not X character instead? Steve isn't that good of a character for a fighting game.
I mean, so we don't have to have a conversation about it, or maybe we do. All of us here know why it makes sense for Steve to be in this game, right? There's not.
It's a big name game.
So far they've included a lot of game characters from outside of Nintendo. They've included characters that are not really known for fighting games, like the Villager. The Villager doesn't do any fighting in Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Ice Climbers? They're more
Ice Climbers?
Game? Yeah.
So there you go. I think we're all in agreement when it comes to that. So with that all being said, I just feel kind of bad for Sakurai because he can't get. No one will ever be happy. He'll never have. I mean, everyone will be happy, but
I'm pretty sure he's dealt with this with every other major release for the game since Smash Brothers for the Wii.
Yeah.
Smash Bros. 4, yeah.
I hope he doesn't read Twitter. I hope he just mutes Twitter and then goes to sleep.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but like literally, social media and Sakurai should not mix.
No, for his sake.
I hope he has somebody read it for him.
Yeah. Hopefully.
But no, I am interested in how not the Villager, but how Steve or Minecraft Man fights because they tried to bring in his moveset, and they actually stated that they had to redesign all the levels so they would interact correctly with Steve.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that, and I didn't dig that deep into it. So, but yeah, I heard
Well-
something like they had to rewrite a lot of the game in a way to accommodate him, which is why some of that
There were
rumors of why he was
about,
upset.
Steve showing up at the beginning of the life cycle of this edition of Smash Brothers. Maybe they've been, struggling with it since the beginning,
Hmm.
and it's only
That's
been
true.
recently that they've managed to move ahead to finally finalize it.
Considering that, I'm actually looking up a few things that they've been mentioning about it, and from the sounds of it, the stage thing has to deal with his
Blocks, I think.
block lane mechanic, and the fact that supposedly it also has to deal with his gathering mechanic as well.
Oh yeah, because he needs to mine stone, wood, and other materials, so it would have to be positioned throughout the level to properly give him this stuff.
Or at least something set up so that, whenever he mines in a certain spot, he has a random chance of getting X material.
So they had to make
Or-
sure that he can mine and craft it in the game.
Essentially.
What a concept.
But
Okay, so anything else worth talking about when it comes to this subject?
overall, I'd say that it's it was fairly well received. Yeah, there's still going to be naysayers, but there's naysayers
Always.
always. Overall, reception I've seen of it is people are actually really impressed with Steve. Even if they don't want to play him, they'll say that the people that do play him and do play him well, he will be probably one of the more trick type players to deal with.
I'm sure he'll be a fun inclusion.
Oh yeah.
Okay, speaking of potentially upset workforces, Cyberpunk 2077 is getting crunch.
Yeah, I've heard about this. It's not the kind of crunch you think of when people start having talk of crunch these days.
Yeah.
As I understand it, it's just simply some paid overtime.
But is it mandatory? That's that's the only thing I've been hearing that's conflicting. Because if it's mandatory, then it's crunch.
Yeah, it probably is mandatory, but it's not like it's an excessive amount of going over paid overtime or
And there's
unpaid
also
overtime.
rumors that there have been people who have already been crunching for the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us are going to go too deep into criticizing. Well, why did I just forget who they are? CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red. I don't think none of us are going to go too far into criticizing the hell out of them for this,
as
but
I understand
it's something
it
to note.
from one source that I had, he said that Cyberpunk 2077 has not been in sort of a stop and go development cycle since its inception. It's actually been actively developed since its announcement, all the way back in 2012 or so.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been in
And
development.
it's
for a
had
long
an
time.
active team on it. That team didn't just simply disappear to help finish The Witcher. Yes, they went over to help The Witcher 3, but the team was still doing their own work and stuff. So it's been in a bit of development hell in a way.
Yeah, it's been a lot of changes throughout the years.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And it's probably completely feasible that some people have been crunching on it just because it's been their project. It's been what they've been trying to do. And I have heard rumors that it may not be as spectacular as everybody's hyping it up to be.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by hype. Because if you ask me, I think a majority of people don't care because we're talking about a game that's been eagerly anticipated for years now. That was supposed to come out in March this year, got delayed
but
twice.
the same could be said of Star Citizen or Duke Nukem Forever.
True,
God.
true. But I mean, well, what I'm trying to make here is that I think that if it was anybody but CD Projekt Red, I think there'd be a lot more backlash. And if it was any other game besides Cyberpunk 2077, there'd be a lot more backlash. But I think so many people are so eager for this game that they're going
I
to
think it's the
silently
fact
let it go. But I mean,
think
it's
it's the
still
fact-
something to. It's still not great. It's not great for the industry.
Well, you know my opinion about crunch. I think crunch is inevitable, even if
Hmm.
they manage it correctly, which it sounds like they're trying to. It's when's the release date? November?
Yeah, 14th, I think. 14, 15,
So
maybe 12,
that's 6
something like
weeks
that.
out. That's not a ridiculous amount of crunch, in my opinion, since all they're doing really is they're going over everything with a fine-tuned comb at this point.
again, if we assume that they only just started.
True.
Which let's go ahead and assume that because that's still speculation at this point. So we can go ahead and assume they only just started now.
Yeah. Versus, from the sounds of it, something like Destiny sounds like it was entirely out of crunch, essentially, for the last year before its release.
Yeah, and the truth is, we probably won't know the truth of how much crunch there was or wasn't or whatever until after the game is launched. Well, maybe in December or January we'll know exactly what had to be done to get this game out. But I don't know, just as somebody who, like, my job, I have a salary job that works 40 hours. But then there are times where
I work another 5.
Oh, I don't. As a rule, I do not. The deal is 40 hours, and the two things that come to that is that I know people in and out of my own company that kind of take a weird pride in working more than 40 hours, and I just shut up because I'm like, hell no, I ain't working more than 40 hours. I often do because problems happen when something's broken. We do that, like that. It happens. But damn, like I would never purposely set myself up to only work more than 40 hours. If it can't be done in 40 hours, it's because we're mismanaging our time. That's what that means. Just like what a lot of people are saying about this.
Well, yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of mismanaged designs simply because instead of having the design, 100% done in the first half of the project and working off of that for the rest, they start making changes halfway through, making more changes, taking away features, throwing in new features. And that just simply changes the entire timetable over of like what they need to build for those new features, what work was essentially wasted on the old feature.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Yeah, like you said, like I don't know if we live in a world yet where crunch can really be done away with completely. But I mean, I can't help but emphasize with people who, if I were in that position, I mean, again, I guess if we're assuming that it's only the last six weeks, there's going to be crunch. I think there's a part of me that could live with that. But like, if I were at my job right now,
is that if it's a proper marathon, you don't run halfway through it to the end. That would kill you.
And yet a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and that's bad.
I think that's the concern, and I think when a company like CD Projekt Red does it even to a minimal degree, it still sets the precedent for other companies who don't mind abusing to just continue on. I think that's the only. That's why, again, I don't think CD Projekt Red's going to get a lot of flack for it personally, other than just like like maybe you would scold your dog for jumping on the couch. Like, it's not a terrible thing, but like we can't encourage it. That's like the worst metaphor I can come up with at a moment. But you all know what I meant.
Should not encourage it, essentially.
Yeah, I can't encourage it. Something has to be said. Whether or not we're going to like rain fire on them, I think we won't. But it can't go unsaid. And then the other unfortunate thing is that that's really all we can do. Like, I'm not going to not buy this game at this point. This isn't enough to stop me from buying a game. This isn't bad. Admittedly not bad enough for me to stop buying the game. Fuck, there hasn't been a game that has existed that has been crunched so bad I didn't buy the game. So we're not there yet. So, and CD Projekt Red is not the worst offender of it. So, I know, just like I was kind of alluding at before, like if that were me, that would really be soul crushing. Because when I work more than 4 hours, it's because there's an emergency. So there's like understanding about that. But if I were told like today that I would have to work the next 6 weeks an extra day,
or at least
that
an extra like 2 hours a day.
Yeah, that would be taxing. And I know people who do it, and I know people personally in another company that are okay with that. And it's just like, that is not okay. Like, why are you giving them 50, 60 hours of your week like that? Like, there's just something to my core that is so wrong about that, because that takes away from everything else in your life.
Well,
and
I hate to say this, Eddie, but there is already a service industry that does that. It's not called crunch, but they do it during a certain time of year, and people think that it's okay to do that.
Are we talking about the iPhone?
No, I'm actually talking about holiday season.
Yeah, I figured that's what you were alluding to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, people are at the like, I've done that. I hate it because it's like, oh, this is overtime. Okay, I don't have to do it. No, it's mandatory. Do you know what you just said?
Yeah.
And like, now where I'm currently at, I don't have to with that, but at the same time, it's like, seriously, who thought it was a good idea to actually do something called mandatory overtime? Because as a heads up, that's crunch. That's basically it's game development crunch. It's essentially asking to stay longer for company profit.
And even in this case, I'm assuming there's extra compensation. I hope there's extra compensation. I mean, that would be draconian if there
let's
wasn't.
face it. The difference, I think, the main major difference, most of these stories is whether or not they actually paid for the overtime. Because let's face it, these people should be far richer if they're working 80-hour weeks and 40 of those hours are overtime hours.
Hmm.
They should be like more than capable of like saying, okay, I've released the game, I almost killed myself, I'm going to go away now. But they don't,
Yeah,
because they don't break even.
I think I just remembered. I think that's the stories we heard about Borderlands, right? Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
Plenty of people who crunched didn't get promised compensation,
Well,
or the
that was
compensation they
because
got
of
was
the
very
supposed
meh.
bonuses they were promised.
Okay, yeah,
for
we did
the
talk about
release
that.
of the
Yeah.
game. Especially since they were asking for those bonuses like ahead of time, but they said, "Nah, we're not going to give those out yet." But some people did get those bonuses early. Some people received those bonuses at all. It was a really weird story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, CD Projekt Red has a good reputation at this point, so maybe they're not doing anything shady. But
It's hard to say. I mean, the
yeah,
only people who really know how bad it is are the people inside. And if
Mhm.
they think it's bad enough, hopefully they do contact somebody and say how bad it is.
That's the other like the worry in my heart about this kind of thing is that like those people that were saying hopefully they say something, like they don't have a lot of leverage here. Like there's only so many places they can complain about being looked on as a slacker or not putting in enough or not being part of the culture or just straight up being told to leave because well if you can't handle it there's 100 other people who will do it. Like that's bullshit. But that's the kind of reality that the industry has kind of created itself and other industries. And I guess it is not to single out the game industry, but
Yeah. It. I hate to say it, but business has set itself up to perfectly put it. Yeah, it itself up to the point of where it's like employees are not valued. They are literally
undervalued.
treated. They are treated as essentially a resource. Oh, if this resource isn't performing the duties that it needs to be done, then we just get rid of it and then change it out for a different resource for us.
Another interesting tie into a previously discussed story. That was this kind of practice is one of the things that really hurt the development of The Last of Us Part 2, which I don't know if we discussed on here before or not, but to recap real quick,
Well,
because of the crunch that the company has done before, a lot of experienced people left and they probably added 2 years of development time bringing in new people in and training them up to do what they needed to do for this.
I don't think it was so much having them train up to have the for the game. It was just simply a matter of cheap labor by ultimately hiring less experienced people. You can pay them less and
Well, they only
expect
had to
them
do that
work more.
because experienced people left. They did that only because experienced people. That was the cause and effect in that situation. Though, I mean, I'm sure people do what you're saying, is that they'll start with hiring quote unquote cheap labor. But I think in the Naughty Dog's case, they actually had people leave, and yeah, that dominoed.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's like we can argue this from dawn to dusk.
Yeah, I was going to say if there's anything else worth mentioning at this point, then we can go on to. I think I have like a couple of more things we can talk about. I watched a new anime this week.
Oh,
It's called let's see, am I pronouncing it right? It's Anohana, the flower we saw that day. I think that's what it was called. Is that something YouTube's seen before?
Yeah.
we've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
That's the one with the dead girl, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Okay, yeah, I just binged it this week. It was really good. I liked it a lot. It was
Okay.
it was short and sweet. This is the kind of anime that I mean, this is not technically slice of life, right? But this is the kind of anime that a long time ago I probably would not highly prioritize. But I heard so many good things about this that I gave it a shot, and I've been doing that a lot more lately. I've been giving this type of anime a lot more of a chance. Like I said last week, I've been watching Kaguya-sama, so that's also something I would never normally have watched before.
Yeah.
I'm opening up.
Admittedly, like this is also the start of the new anime season, which me and MPX can agree was last season. Yeah, there was some stuff out there that people were highly enamored with, but me and MPX really there was nothing a lot out there that we wanted to watch.
I was gonna say I feel like there just hasn't been that much in releases, just because
Well,
again probably
the problem
COVID.
with the last scene was that COVID hit, and a lot of anime studios had to fall out of that,
Mhm.
of trying to restructure their business around it, trying to deal with their overseas contracts and their studios to deal with the in-betweens.
So some of the stuff that was supposed to be coming out last season got delayed to this season or next year even.
Do you know if the fall lineup is looking promising?
From what we've so far, there definitely isn't stuff in there.
I would
trying to-
recommend Tyson.
Jutsu Kaisen. Kaisen.
Tyson. Okay.
It's like another one we might
Shonen
recommend.
horror.
Yeah, it's shonen horror.
Oh, 'tis the season.
Let's see. Another one that's popped up. Yeah, admittedly, this one is Eddie. Were you a fan of?
Yes,
You may want to check out Burn the Witch.
I've been hearing that one pop up a lot lately.
Well, that's because
It's-
it's basically a successor series to.
It's the same, like some of the same creators behind that, right?
It is the same creator behind Bleach.
Okay, that's what I thought I had. Yeah.
And
That's been
by
on my radar.
successor- Well, it also does take place in the Bleach universe as well.
Oh, it does? Okay, I didn't understand that part. Really?
It does.
Ooh.
So, as a heads up, there may be certain characters that may show up in Burn the Witch that if you're a fan of Bleach, you'll recognize and get the nice little, oh, hey, cool.
There's been some rumors that they're going to bring that back to round out where the manga left off.
I think that's scheduled for next.
Oh, I hope so, because two reasons. One, the stuff in that last bit of the manga is really good looking. Number two, it's confusing as fuck, and I really need to see it in an anime because I don't understand what's going on.
Let's see. I just brought up like what Crunchyroll has.
Yeah, I've been following what Funimation's been putting out, so I'm behind on most stuff. Like Fire Force, Decadence, Operaman, and Bofuri are like everything I'm watching right now. But those are old hat for the most part.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Dragon
Isn't
Quest.
Fire Force being run concurrently? Are
Yeah.
you just catching up to it?
Well, Funimation's voice acting crew is doing everything remotely.
Oh,
so they
yeah, that's
can't-
right. You watch a dub, don't watch
Yep.
sub.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like 3 weeks behind.
Yeah,
At
like
best.
perpetually behind because they can't keep.
Well, it takes longer, I guess, to do
Yeah.
the dubbing, just to have everybody's schedule show up, because they're probably not just simply dubbing one show; they're dubbing a lot of them.
Yeah, they do about in any given week they can probably do about 6 or 7 of all the ones that are currently out right now. But but that usually means that like I'm also watching A Millionaire Detective, so they'll do like maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then they'll have to skip a week and do something, that kind of stuff.
Okay, I've got base. So let's see here. Jujutsu Kaisen, Danmachi Season 3, also known as How to Pick Up Chicks in the Dungeon.
I haven't
Yeah,
given
that
that one a shot yet, but I've heard funny stuff about that one.
It is a pretty interesting one. Oh, hey, that. The return of Higurashi no Naku no, Koro ni.
Wasn't the last one back in the aughts?
Yes. So, yeah, people are going to get into Higurashi and go like, oh, this is a nice, cute, why are people dying? Because it's a horror anime.
Ooh, speaking of people dying, I heard that the Goblin Slayer movie is going to get dubbed. It's going to be out later in the month, so I'm excited for
Yeah.
that.
Actually, is
I'm
there
gonna-
any news on the dub for Demon Slayer movie?
Demon Slayer?
That is out. They have a dub for it, like for what's been released to this point. I think they've dubbed that all of it already. I
Okay.
haven't watched any of it yet, but
Well, I mean specifically the movie, because at the end of the series, they promised that, hey, the next thing is the movie, which still also takes the canon elements of the manga going into it. So
Okay.
missing out on it means seeing like a huge arc inside the manga.
they haven't dubbed the movie yet, though. I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah.
They might eventually, because again, I just mentioned Goblin's Crown, but remember when that came out? That came out a while ago too. I think just with the way things are, we're going to see movies being dubbed at a lot slower rate than your weekly anime.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, that apparently aired today.
What?
Hanyo no Yashahime, also known as the sequel to Inuyasha.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah. I've been seeing that one. Actually, a little excited about that one too. I was big on Inuyasha.
Yeah, it's on Crunchyroll for those that are looking into it. Golden Kamui, third. Did we ever finish?
I think so. Yeah, we did,
Oh.
because we got to jail and succeeded in jailbreaking.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be an interesting one to see, which is Dragon Quest Dai no Daiboken, or Dai's Quest.
Ooh.
That's a weird one.
Because this is like technically a redoing of an old 90s anime based off of Dragon Quest 3.
That should be pretty cute.
Technically, it's based off of the manga.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I don't know if the original anime got anywhere or it had an original anime. Sort of like how Ushio Totoro did have a OVA run back in the
No.
90s.
I'm pretty sure Dino Daiboken did have an anime series, but I'm not sure if it ever received like a proper ending.
Yeah. Well, it would be sort of like an anime a couple of years back. What's it called? It was also based off of a 90s manga, but it did have a like 90s anime that went up to a point, but then ended up doing an anime original ending.
Oh, are you talking
Well-
about that one that you continued to watch, but I kind of dropped?
Well, we were starting to watch it, and I was complaining about every single time at the beginning where they skip over things or do weird shit with the continuity.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't help the fact that the first half of it essentially is, just a highlights reel, and you're supposed to actually have read the mangas to know what's actually going on.
Yeah.
That sounds
I know
terrible.
what but okay, let's see.
Speaking of which, today's October 3rd, which is a Full Metal Alchemist reference.
Yeah, I've been saying that nonstop all day. I'm not against Full Metal Alchemist, but you see it for like 18 times. You're like, God, shut up about this.
It's only once a year.
It's every.
Until we die, but, there are worse things.
But yeah, like I think one of the other, like some of the other stuff that's shown up, like there's a kind of a lot. Not all of them are every streaming service. Let's see. Like I'm pretty because like I'm trying to like the like is the Order a Rabbit? That one, like, God, I've never watched the anime series, and it's one of those like girls, and you're like,
You mean like every anime?
Well, specifically, like some anime.
yeah. But like there are other ones that are like really weird one, like
One that just was released that it was about train musumes.
yes, Rail Romanesque. Yeah, okay, here we go. Here's the description for it. Set in Hinomoto, a fictional version of Japan where long-time railway travel served as the most important form of transport. Each locomotive
of
was
course.
paired with a humanoid control module, so-called Rail Lord, that aided the train operation. So it is literally Densha Musume, to use the Japanese name, even though that means train girl. And I'm like, ugh.
That's. I love anime. One last thing, anime worth mentioning, because I know I brought this up on the podcast before, but have you guys given a chance of The Great Pretender on Netflix?
No.
Nah.
You need to. Do it.
I hate Eddie. I literally watched the trailer and I'm like a heist like an anime about a heist.
Yeah.
And-
It's
It's literally like I swear I've literally seen the exact same plot as a movie, and I thought the movie was okay. I'm just not a big heist man. I'm not saying it's going to be a bad series. I'm just saying like overall there's not a lot that I feel like I'd get watching it because it just doesn't
commit. It's not that long.
Isn't it like 12 episodes?
I don't think so because they haven't released everything yet. There's still one arc they haven't released yet, but it's less than. I'm pretty sure it's less.
But average
30 minutes. Yeah, your average length. Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
there's a couple things.
the first arc is 3 episodes. If you don't like after the first 3 episodes, then yeah, all right, you're not gonna like the rest of it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that's interesting.
Okay, with that, I think it's time to close out because we are about to get onto streaming.
Okay.
So, any final thoughts?
Not really.
Zoids!
Yes, Zoids. What? Jesus. Okay, that'll be our final thoughts then. Okay, bye everybody. We are out. Remember, we stream Fridays and Saturdays, and we podcast sometimes twice a week. So look out for those. That's it. Go. What are you still doing here? Go. Turn it off. We don't do commercials, so you don't have to worry about that. Just skip forward 30 seconds. You'll be at your next podcast episode. Do it now. Come on, do it now.
This has been a presentation of Front Row Geeks.